So, a lot of people have seen this movie about a girl from Kansas who survives a tornado and gets a free pair of shoes. And as a result, they think that the Yellow Brick Road starts in Munchkinland and takes you to the Emerald City. But actually, the Yellow Brick Road started in Cambridge, just behind the MIT campus. So that's where in 1915, these two MIT professors started a company that was in a railroad car, cheap real estate then and probably now too. And their company aimed to transform the movies from a black and white medium to one that could represent all of the colors that the human eye can see. MIT back then and still does have a yearbook that's called Technique. And the company was focused on color film production, Technique color. So they picked the name Technicolor. They showed their first color movie, which was called The Gulf Between, in downtown Boston in 1917. And they had offices like this one right near Fenway Park that supported other producers and directors that wanted to make color films. Then as movie production started to get concentrated in Hollywood in the late 20s and 30s, Technicolor eventually moved its operations there and left Boston behind. So I'd love to ask for a show of hands, just how many of you knew this story before today? All right, I got one hand.
I did.
John knew this story because he's told it in other presentations. So let's say you lived in a place where color movies got their start and where surgical anesthesia was first used to knock someone out before they were cut open, and where the sewing machine and the video game and the steam shovel and the iron lung and the instant camera and also Boston cream pie were invented. Steve Jobs did not invent the Apple computer, start Apple here, but Jobs did say that Apple probably wouldn't have been successful as a company without a piece of software that was conceived of on the campus of Harvard Business School called VisiCalc. It was the first spreadsheet software, and it gave business people a good reason to buy the Apple II computer and really launched Apple on its trajectory. A company in Cambridge that one of our earlier speakers, Rohit, worked for, Bolt, Beranek, and Newman, built much of the hardware for the original ARPANET, the internet's predecessor, and a researcher there sent the first email. Also, this has been mentioned today, 150 years ago, Alexander Graham Bell spills acid on himself in a lab in downtown Crossing. He says, "Watson, come here, I want to see you," to his assistant. They invent and patent the telephone. And then also in 1876, later that year, they demonstrate that the telephone could span really, really long distances from Boston all the way to Cambridge, and that's what that plaque commemorates. So the historian Bob Krim and I started the Innovation Trail because we argue that no city has been as innovative over the past 4 centuries as Boston. And we felt like if you could lay claim to this many world-changing innovations, there ought to be a way for kids growing up here and people coming here for trips, students coming here for college, to really experience that and what it means. If you've been to Logan Airport, Bob and Janie Bischoff laid the first few bricks of this road in 2016 with a video wall that gives people, that tells some of these stories and gives people a way to start to understand them. But after you've picked up your luggage and taken your Uber or taken the T into the city, the story kind of ends there. There isn't an experience. So since we got started 4 years ago, we built a mobile-friendly website that has an audio guide and maps that lets you walk the tour on your own. We've distributed about 7,500 printed maps because some people still like ink on dead trees to carry around with them. We have a series of YouTube videos that we created. And we've also started to create some public art to celebrate innovators from Boston and Cambridge. And you'll also see some signage and displays in a few spots that let you know that you're on the Innovation Trail. But the thing we've learned is that getting Cambridge and Boston to let you create a yellow brick road, similar to the Freedom Trail's red bricks, turns out to be much harder in the 2020s than it was in the 1950s when the Freedom Trail was created. But if you're tight with Mayor Wu or Governor Healy, maybe you want to mention this idea, plug this idea to them, because we think it can happen. Pretty much everything we do is supported by donors who think that if you live in the most innovative city in the world, it might be a good idea to tell people about it. And as with all nonprofits, we're always on the lookout for people who want to be involved in other ways too. For instance, we've been exploring this year the idea of training some volunteer guides who actually work in tech or biotech or academia to help lead a few trails over the course of the year for people who are interested in particular subjects, and we get a lot of those groups from all around the world, both students and professionals interested in going a little bit deeper. We also noticed since we started building the Innovation Trail that our area has a lot of STEM-focused museums, maybe more than any other city in the world. And so the trail includes 5 of them, not just the Museum of Science, which everyone knows, but also the Broad Institute's Discovery Center and the MIT Museum. And we also love to tell people about others like the Charles River Museum of Industry and Innovation, and the Harvard Collection of Historical Scientific Instruments. I'd love to see a show of hands if you've been to any of those museums, all right, other than the Museum of Science, which we're all obligated to go to as Bostonians. How about let's see a show of hands if you know this guy on the left of the slide. All right, awesome. One of the original founding fathers who went to Boston Latin School, dropped out when he was 11, so he was kind of the original entrepreneurial dropout from the Boston area. Very few people know that he had a side hustle working for Harvard when he was over in Europe, kind of as an emissary of the United States. He would buy scientific instruments for Harvard professors and students to use. So if you go to this Harvard collection, you can see some of the items on display that Ben Franklin bought for them. So one big idea that we have for 2027, and I'd love your help advocating for it, is that by the end of July, by the end of next month, the 250th anniversary is going to be over, the FIFA World Cup is going to be over, and Sail Boston 2 is going to be over. So I think we need a new message to make the case for coming to Boston and Massachusetts. And we think that given how much this area cares about scientific progress and entrepreneurship and moving society forward, it'd be great to position the city and really the entire state as the ultimate place for STEM tourism or nerd tourism. We think you can really legitimately say that this is America's science capital, or as Michael John Gorman, the head of the MIT Museum, likes to say, this is really Nerdvana, and he's been to a lot of and worked in a lot of big cities around the world. So we built this prototype itinerary planner that includes more than 40 science-oriented spots around the state, from Pittsfield to Nantucket. And I would love for you to check it out and send us some feedback on it, because this is probably our newest project. And I would love for you to let people know if they're interested in how individuals with big ideas can change the world, that it's worth coming to Massachusetts and it's worth getting out on the Innovation Trail. Thanks so much.